Welcome to another episode of the Most Serious Podcast. And Palak makes a return on the show. Welcome, Palak. How are you feeling?
Good, thank you. And thanks, Rikudaman, for having me again. It's always good to be back here.
Yeah, and we were discussing this just right now that before recording, that last time we spoke, I actually was in Gurgaon and now I moved to Bangalore. And
Yeah.
then it kind of struck that that much time has happened from
Yeah.
our conversation, because I still remember like having that discussion on female health and a lot of things that we talked about.
Yeah. I'm really excited for our conversation today. And I think a lot has been, changed and evolved in terms of women's health as well. And let's touch base upon all of this.
Yeah, sure. So मैं पलक सोच रहा था कि will cover you know step by step. I wanted to dive a little bit deeper about hormonal health for women, and mostly मेरे को लगता है कि a lot of guys don't understand what that means really,
Hmm.
like in terms of, because there is not a lot of common education around that. I don't know
Right.
how many girls also are educated about hormonal health as much as they should be, but
Yeah.
guys so definitely aren't. So
Hmm.
maybe let's start breaking that down step by step. Maybe we could start with something as simple as menstruation, or what is the role of a period cycle for a woman, and how it really affects their lifestyle. So
Right.
maybe that's a good place to start.
Absolutely. I think, what you just said, that a lot of men are not aware. I feel like, it stands both for men and women. But I would say, like, the primary difference between a man and a woman is, the cycle that our body works upon. So, women's body function on a 28-day menstrual cycle. They function on a 28-day cycle, and whereas men function on a 24-hour cycle. And I think that is something that makes a lot of difference in how we function every day, how we respond, how we handle stressors around us, how we respond to stressors, because everything is governed by these cycles. So if we sort of talk about, the women's cycle, 28-day cycle, of course, it's divided into three phases majorly. First is the luteal phase, wherein it is the period where just 14 days before the period starts, that is the luteal phase. Now, that is the phase where the woman is actually at her lowest in terms of energy levels and even the mood swings. So, a woman's body actually prepares for pregnancy every month,
Hmm.
right? Now, because the cycle is continuously happening every month, there are a lot of changes in the hormones that are also happening. The fluctuation in the two major hormones that women have is estrogen and progesterone. So they are always fluctuating. And because of these fluctuation, a lot of changes in our moods also happen. So, in the luteal phase, because of the fluctuation in these two hormones, it directly impact our happy hormones as well,
Hmm.
which is serotonin. Now, you may find a woman really agitated over small things, or they often tell me also that they feel like crying for like no reason. So these symptoms are a sign that you're in a luteal phase.
And this happens every month.
Yeah, every month.
And there's like, so this let's keep breaking it down. So there's like no way to improve your feeling during that time. Is it like you're supposed to feel that low every month? Is that how it works?
Well, it does impacts your happy hormones. So you are
Okay.
bound to feel a little low, but that can be managed. So we cannot sort of completely eliminate that,
Hmm.
because see, there are happy hormones in our body that gets affected for sure. So we cannot control them, but we can manage it by managing our lifestyle. So when I say
Okay.
lifestyle, that means our sleep cycle, our stress levels, of course, our food, and the daily movement that we get. If we take care of these four things, it can reduce the impact of, uh, the happy hormones playing a lot of changes in our body, or what we are feeling. The impact of that can be reduced for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So luteal phase is followed by then.
So luteal phase is the phase which is 14 days before the periods starts to happen. After that, you hit your periods. Basically, that is the phase where you bleeding, and that can last some.
Yeah, I think there was a network clip.
Problem.
Yeah. So
Was it
you were
mine?
talking
I
about,
don't.
huh?
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll cut this, and you were talking about, the actual period cycle after luteal phase.
Yes. So then finally the bleeding happens. Now, again, that is also a period where you want to sort of rest. So it can last up to about like 5 to 7 days, depending upon, women to women. Each period cycle length varies. Um, and of course, this can also be improved on the basis of the foods that we consume. If you feel a lot of cramps, then of course, supplementing your diet with magnesium or having a lot of magnesium foods can actually help you with those period cramps as well.
Okay.
So this is the like the first bit of the cycle where I feel like for a man, if they sort of understand that, or they want to understand the women in their lives better, their mother, sister, girlfriend, wife, they can definitely understand that what is luteal phase. And it can also make sense to them that why, the women in their life is feeling a certain way.
Yeah.
If she's feeling sad or she's feeling like she wants to cry, but there's no major reason, then you can simply understand that okay, it's just that it's her hormones, it's not her. And that can I think resolve a lot of conflicts. That can also help the relationship to be more stronger because you're understanding the other person much more better.
Yeah.
In terms of how their bodies function.
And can you also help me draw this parallel for a male when you say that a woman operates on a 28-day cycle and there are, let's say, 3 to 4 phases which goes through. For a man, then, like, how is it a 24-hour cycle and what all goes through, like, in that?
Well, see, for a man, it's their primary hormone is testosterone. And that hormone per se is actually a muscle building hormone. So that hormone supports them. And there is no certain fluctuation. They also have estrogen in their body, which is a female hormone, but the quantity of that hormone is very less. The impact is really, really less.
Okay.
So when I said 24-hour cycle, it means that from morning to evening.
Okay, so your energy levels are also tied to, yeah.
Your cortisol levels are high in the morning, and as the day ends, they go lower, and that repeats every day. So you are mostly constant in terms of your energies and how you feel. So suddenly there are no outbursts or no certain changes in your mood, your energy levels. So that makes the graph constant for men. But for women, it's like a lot of spikes happening. And the luteal phase is where all the major changes happen in the mood, in the energy levels, and how they usually feel.
And these hormones, let's say, are mostly impacted in our lifestyle, like for a day-to-day person operating, like a general job or something like that. What are the most common things that affect your hormones, impact your hormones from your lifestyle? Is it sleep? Is it nutrition? Like which one of them is the biggest indicator for whether your hormones could be off or on? Like, yeah.
I also would say that there is certain, certain emphasis that is there on stress levels, which we don't put upon. We don't put upon a lot of emphasis on how stress can impact our bodies and our cycle. So I would definitely place stress at the first number in terms of how it affects our cycle. So if you are high on stress, mostly it will directly have impact on your period cycle. And I have also seen that in many women, the period cycle is not regularized. It's not regular because of the high stress levels. Of course, the second thing is your diet. If your diet is really high in carbs, which our Indian diet predominantly is, and it's also high in sugar, and you're having a lot of junk food, it will directly have impact on your period cycle. Either it will become irregular, or you will face certain symptoms of hormonal changes in your body, like acne or hair fall, which is very common. And yes, then it's the sleep. Your sleep cycle is plays a major role in impacting your cycle as well.
Is it true that women require more sleep than men?
Yeah, it is. And especially in the luteal phase, they feel more sleepy. And I think they should get more sleep because their body is doing a lot of work. So they feel more tired. It may look like they aren't physically putting in the work, but their hormones and the interplay of hormones inside their body is making them feel that way. So they need to rest a little bit more, which is why it is always said that women do need more sleep than men.
This is very interesting. And so, like, every month when a female like goes through all this, you might be like, after, let's say, how do you make sure that you're being healthy over time to ensure that your period cycle or your overall health in that regard is not getting affected? Because it's hard to stay consistent, right? If you know that you're going to be feeling a certain low phase coming, then it's hard to build momentum and keep going through. So what's the work around that? Because when I hear this, it kind of sounds like a very challenging thing to do.
Well, I think the first thing is to be aware, because a lot of women, even women themselves, not even men, even women themselves are not aware of why they're feeling a certain way. And when I meet or interact with women, they feel like, okay, I'm not feeling good today. I'm feeling low on energy, or I'm having a bad day. And they can't really point out why they're feeling that way. And that, makes them even feel more anxious. So the first thing is that if you know why this is happening, you have the answers in your mind.
Yeah.
So I think that is the key, awareness. Second is, once you are aware that phase, you can definitely manage it by slowing down in that period. So if you usually do 10 things in a day, you can cut it to like doing 5 things in a day, because your body is already doing a lot of work for you, and you want to just slow it down and maybe rest more, if that is an opportunity that you can do. So that is something called a cycle syncing, wherein you can sync your lifestyle around your cycle. So you can maybe schedule all the important work in the first half, which is the follicular phase, which is where, after the period ends, you start feeling high on energy, and, you're sort of ready to do all the important stuff. You can even go on a higher intensity in your workouts. So you can schedule your important work or important events during that time. And in the luteal phase, you can schedule more time for yourself. That's how you can sort of sync it. which will work for you. So we are working with the body and not against it.
Makes sense. I think this also points to a very interesting conversation, which is that all of these hormones lead to a immediate impact on how you feel, right? And what your mood
Yeah.
is. And whenever I've heard mood swings, or whenever I've heard this like phrase in general, it's very hard for me to sometimes also envision like what the other person is going through. Like, how does it feel like to go from feeling one way to suddenly feeling the other way? And what does it do to your like overall mental health? Because I think it might kind of like unsettle you also as a person going through all that. So like, I
Yeah.
want you to break it down in a slightly easier way to understand what mood swings are, why do they happen, and like, are there ways to mitigate them?
So see, mood swings could actually mean that you are feeling low, you're
Hmm.
feeling sad for no specific reason. So,
Hmm.
as the name suggests, mood swings. It's a swing in your mood. So, it could be that you could be feeling very low or sad in the mornings, and by evening, you're not feeling that way.
Hmm.
So, that is a sudden swing in your mood, sudden fluctuation in your mood. Or, one day you are feeling good, you're feeling happy, but the next day, you're not feeling the same way. So for women, it becomes a little tricky because tricky in terms of the people they're surrounded by,
Hmm.
the people in the family, their friend, their office. It's hard for a woman to explain it to them, like why this is happening to them,
Hmm.
and that is a tricky situation where we feel okay, I'm not feeling great about myself, or I'm not feeling high in energy, but I can't really explain that to the other person because there is no certain, of course there's a reason, the hormones, but there's no certain event that it is associated with,
Hmm.
and that
So it
leads
might also feel like complaining for no reason, or like,
right.
a sense of guilt on your own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, which leads to women feeling a lot helpless about
Yeah.
themselves, that and they feel sorry for themselves, that okay, I'm feeling this, I should not be feeling this, and I can't explain that to my partner or to my boss that today I'm not feeling the best. So I think it impacts your mental health in that way, that you start feeling guilty, you start feeling sorry about yourself, which is where, like, I tell women that you should honor your cycle. It is such a
Hmm.
beautiful thing to be a woman
Hmm.
because you have that capacity to produce another human being, and that is
Yeah.
only possible because you run on a 2080 cycle.
Hmm.
So that's the perspective shift, which when happens, uh, a lot of women also start healing their symptoms.
Hmm.
Because if you shame or you feel shame about your period cycle, or if you're guilty about it, it will take a toll on your health, on your mental health, and it will directly impact your period cycle as well.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. I think that actually would probably optimize you for your health the best. I think planning out things from a lens of your period cycle. But let's also talk about, the two, again, big talking points when it comes to period health or lifestyle related, impact on your menstrual health overall. PCOS and PCOD. Um, I've heard them enough to probably have some sense of idea of what they are, but I would still want you to explain it to us, like what they really mean, and how to first understand what it is, and then probably figure out to maybe solve it, or adapt some ways to reduce its impact on your health.
Right. So, PCOS, as the name suggests, it means polycystic ovarian syndrome. So, poly means more than one, and cystic means cysts. Ovarian is obviously ovaries that we're talking about here. So, for a woman, their ovaries produces follicles, small follicles every month, and that produces egg. Like one follicle matures, it produces a egg, and then either the egg gets fertilized through a sperm, but if it does not, then it bleeds open into period blood.
Yeah.
So that is happening every month in a healthy cycle. That the egg is coming out into the uterus, either it gets fertilized or it doesn't, you get the period. But in certain cases, what happens is that over a period of time, these follicles are not able to produce an egg. And over time, these immature follicles develop a formation of cysts in your ovaries.
Okay.
And then over time, when you go to the doctor and they do an ultrasound, they see that your ovaries have cysts. These cysts are actually immature follicles that is developed over a period of time, and which is what we call as PCOS. Right. So, first major symptom is irregular periods, and second is that your ultrasound report will show cysts in the ovaries. These two things will actually confirm that you have PCOS. So now we can sort of understand that why these cysts are forming, over a period of time. Whereas in a healthy cycle, it produces an egg, but all of a sudden or gradually, why that is not happening.
Yeah.
So there are like 2 to 3 reasons. First is, I would say, is insulin resistance.
Okay.
Now, how is that connected to PCOS? So if your lifestyle, as I said, that if your food is high in carbs, which Indian diets are predominantly higher in carbs, and we are not having enough protein, that can lead to insulin resistance.
Okay, so having enough carbs can actually lead to insulin resistance?
Without protein and fiber.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Because if you see the diet that we usually have, we start our day with poha or upma. These are all predominantly carbohydrates. Then even in the lunch, we stick to rice and we stick to like some gravy, and the dinner is mostly the same. So then this becomes like a very skewed diet. It is only carbs, whereas I see that protein and fiber is missing, which actually stabilize blood sugar levels. So over time, when your diet keeps lacking those proteins and those fiber that is needed, you'll develop insulin resistance.
Okay.
And that can impact your reproductive cycle. That is one of the factors. Second is, as I mentioned, stress. And that can again be chronic stress that has gradually developed, or you're operating in sort of like a fight and flight mode all the time.
Yeah.
Or you
like
have
a survival instinct. Yeah.
Right. That can also have impacts directly on your hormones. Now, for women also have testosterone. And when, because of their lifestyle, poor diet, poor sleep, high stress levels, what happens is their testosterone levels increases, which is why a lot of women feel they are facing issues like facial hair, especially on the jawline and the chin, because the testosterone levels have gone up, disproportionately, how it should not be. And this is again one of the signs. Then once the testosterone levels goes up, it can lead to PCOS.
Okay. So that's another indicator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So primarily it is your stress levels, a diet which is only high in carbs. And third is, yes, definitely sedentary lifestyle.
And if one covers all these bases, is it then problem solved, or is it something that you have to live with for the rest of your life once you develop something like PCOS?
See, PCOS is not 100% reversible, but it is 100% manageable.
Oh, okay. So like it's not a daily life inhibitor in any sort of form.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
If you sort of start managing your hormones or restoring your hormones better, if you start balancing your hormones, then over time, all the symptoms will start to reduce.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll disappear. And even though the cyst may appear in your ovaries, but you will not face any day to day symptom or challenge. So, most cases, that is possible with lifestyle changes. And in some cases, medication is also advised.
Okay. And how different is PCOS and from PCOD? Like, what is PCOD then?
This is used interchangeably, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. It was called PCOD, but now it's called PCOS because they transitioned that it is not a disease, it's a syndrome.
Oh, okay. That is the case. I thought both of them were like two different things.
No, it is PCOD was called as polycystic ovarian disease, and PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So it was initially called as PCOD, but over time, gradually, through studies, we found out that PCOD, it's basically not a disease, it's a syndrome. It's a lifestyle disorder. It's not a disease. Which is when I told you that it can be reversed because it's not a disease that you have to live with forever. All the symptoms, all the challenges can easily be reversed.
What's your take on I've always wondered about the fact that how the lifestyle was different previously. How tech maybe has influenced how we live our lives a lot, and the adaptation of this whole new way of operating, let's say, working for weekends, and then probably partying on Fridays and Saturdays and things like that. Those have become our ways of operating in the modern world. In that lens, do you think there is a sustainable way to remain healthy? Like if you're only operating in a cycle in which you're working towards, let's say, just for the weekend, and you're planning to party a lot, or probably eat junk or things like that, so that will affect your health anyway. So how do you make sure that you're still staying healthy, or making a healthy reward mechanism for yourself? Because I'm sure people have a hard time motivating themselves to go for a run than go for a beer. So how do you make that change happen?
Well, I think it starts with just small steps and not making fitness or being healthy very complicated, as I always say. That could simply mean that instead of, let's say, taking an elevator, you can take stairs, which will add on extra steps to your day. That means more movement. If you find yourself sitting for long working hours, then you can maybe put an alarm after every 1 hour to walk for 5 to 10 minutes, specifically after meals. That would mean that you're able to metabolize your food as energy. So we can start with these small steps because, as you said rightly, our lifestyle has, evolved and everything is now available on our fingertips.
Yeah.
And that makes us, of course, complacent. And as human beings, we would not want to put in too much effort when we have everything at disposal. But just small steps every day can add up to really big results. And that's what I actually do with my clients, because all my clients are working women. They work for 8 to 10 hours, plus they have a family to run. So there's a lot on the plate. So we start with small shifts, small changes. Finding more movement in the day to reduce stress levels. Just 5-minute breathing exercise to begin with every morning also helps them.
Yeah.
So it's also not about, maybe going to the gym is not something that everybody has to do. Because once you think of going to the gym, the kind of motivation you require is huge. And
Yeah.
it will
Break
take
it down
more,
into simpler.
yeah, it will take more than hour for you to sort of get the whole activity done.
Yeah.
Whereas what I recommend usually is that start with like 20 minutes of exercise of your choice. And your body will start to see some positive changes. And when you see positive changes, you yourself will be more motivated.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to
That's a
push.
healthy feedback cycle then.
Yeah. So your small wins will only help you to stay on track. So that is, of course, one approach that works. And second is balancing, which means like we are not in the all in or nothing mentality, that today I am just going to eat healthy for the next 2 months and I will never have a pizza in my life. So when we have this approach, we are bound to fail.
Yeah.
Because as you said, we live in an environment where we have options and uh, we cannot really control the environment. We can only control ourselves. But having said that, there are things that we can do, which is to balance it. So if let's say you're going out with your family and everybody is ordering something and you also want to order, you can just make a healthy choice by starting your meal with a salad first. Because if you start your meal with a salad, it can regulate your blood sugar levels. And then you can opt for anything of any meal of your choice. So that way you also get to eat something that you like, not so healthy. But because you had a salad, the effect of that will be lesser on your blood sugar. So these tips and these tricks really work in maintaining or sustaining good health forever.
Well, Palak, I think before we let you go, one last question that I've had is that in this whole, new world of too much consumption, while we consume a lot of content as well, while we consume a lot of food as well, while we consume a lot of just material stuff around us as well, clothes and consumables. Do you think for women health specifically, do you think there's value in fasting?
That's a great question. I think fasting can work for some, but it cannot work for some people. It's very bio-individual because fasting actually acts like a stressor to your body.
Oh, okay. Is it?
Yeah. So if you're in a fight, flight, survival mode, let's say, then adding fasting on top of that will not help you in terms of losing weight or anything. It will stress you more. And then you'll get in that vicious cycle of having more stress, leading to other health problems that leads to more stress. So it's very bi-individual. If you're someone who is not in fight or flight mode, if your stress levels are balanced, or if you can manage them well, then you can definitely go for fasting. And even if when you want to start with fasting, start with a short window, let's say 10 to 12 hours. So that means you have your last meal and the first meal of the next day. There should be a 10 to 12-hour gap. So that you give your body a chance to adapt to that. And once you feel
Instead of going out
comfortable,
all out for a day's
yes,
fast.
for like a 16-hour window where you having your last meal at a certain time and then 16 hours later, the next day you're having your first meal. That could be a lot for someone who's never done fasting.
Yeah.
So you can start with like 10 to 12-hour window and see how you feel about that instead of blindly following that fasting approach, I would say.
Well, makes sense. I didn't know that it acted like a stressor, which actually is a good thing to know, because I think most people just apply fasting as a band-aid to solve general problems. But yeah, very interesting, Palak. Super amazing to always sit down with you and get so many insights about women's health and health in general. Thank you so much for coming on the Most Serious podcast again.